Magazine, and I'm joined today with Mike DeCesare, co-president of McAfee. Welcome to our New York office. It's been 1 year since Intel acquired McAfee, so Mike and I have been discussing what the consequences of that purchase have been, and Mike's telling me hardware-assisted security is the thrust. Why don't you explain exactly what's going on with that?
So hardware-assisted security is the concept of leveraging functionality that's on the chipset that's on that PC to communicate directly with the security package that's on that PC to improve the security overall of the machine it's defending. And
that includes, or that will include, because this is not yet on the marketplace, coming up every, or 90% or so of the PC market, including Windows, Apple, tablets.
Any machine that an Intel chip runs on top of is where it'll be applicable. And again, it's the ability to leverage functionality and get better visibility on that machine to make the security provide a better level of security.
And we're talking about endpoint security?
Endpoint security, correct.
So let me dig a little deeper. I mean, specifically, what does this mean? That the chip will communicate with, how does it help security?
So today the way the security runs in the machine, it runs above the Windows operating system. So it is limited in the visibility of things it can see that goes on that machine. What hardware-assisted security will do is allow us to get below the Windows operating system and just improve the visibility of things that might be going on by leveraging better functionality there and providing a higher security posture.
Stuxnet, Flame, you mentioned Operation High Roller recently. So how do we defend against this? Is this new system going to be a better deterrent?
So the hardware-assisted security is a revolutionary way that I believe security will be purchased moving forward, and will put us in a position where the level that the good guys that are on that machine have a much better level of visibility and can help corporations, consumers, defend against the bad things that are coming at them in a much more effective way. When you move over to some of the more advanced persistent threats, that's where the threat landscape is heading these days. It's not just about the volume of threats that we see out there, and we do see a very rapid escalation in the number of threats. It's about the sophistication of those threats. So when you look at Flame as an example, it's by far the most technically advanced thing my labs team has ever seen. There's more lines of code in this virus than many software packages that are on the marketplace. It had the ability to hack into a machine, turn on the audio and video as an example for espionage purposes. It had the ability to encrypt the information it was taking before it left the organization, so the company that was being penetrated might not even know what information has been stolen. So I think these are just examples of the fact that when you see military grade code land on the commercial market, what can happen with that moving forward? This is very technically advanced. I mean, once you see one of these bad pieces of malware that hits the market, then other bad guys can grab that same code and potentially repurpose it for other attacks. So that is definitely one of the things that we see out there for sure. You've seen portions of Stuxnet pop up in other attacks since Stuxnet was first identified. You mentioned botnets a second ago. Botnets is a growing concern out there. Botnets is the concept of individual PCs being compromised, linked together, and then taken as a force in some of the attacks that are out there. Some of the more high-profile denial of service attacks where they try to overrun a website would be an example of that. But botnets is another form of the way that the bad guys kind of go after organizations.
And what's the cure? What's the antidote? How are the good guys attempting to mitigate, thwart these attacks?
Sure. Well, what's specifically interesting about botnets is that when you include the telecommunication companies in this equation, you realize that if leveraged in the correct way, that the partnership between government and private industries can be very effective for us. The telecommunication companies, if allowed to use their insight into their own network, can be a very important piece in the equation of trying to stop botnets as an example. And I think that's just a great example of the way that our position is that we need governments to provide incentives to the private industry to collaborate more effectively on trying to fix some of these things moving forward.
And do you see that happening? I mean, is it a matter of legislation? Is it a matter of your working with lobbyists in Washington?
Sure.
How do you affect this?
I will tell you there's a lot of effort going into trying to fix these issues, that is for sure. But they are big, technically complex issues, and there's a lot of different policy that sits in between the cure and where we sit today. But I'm very encouraged by the way it's going today. The sponsorship of the U.S. government in trying to go after these, the way that they're approaching private industry like us, telecommunication companies and others is very encouraging, but there's definitely a long way to go.
Okay, because I'm sure there's privacy advocates who would like to keep the government's hands off some of that, the information they can gather from the IPs. And
You're right at the crux of the issue, right? I mean, everybody obviously wants their information to be private in the right ways, but you also want to be safe, and you want to make sure that the government is doing everything in their power to keep you safe. And I think in a lot of the ways is that sometimes having the private information of corporations shared in the right way for the right purposes can be very effective. And I think that's kind of the crux of the issue that we're up against.
okay. We were also talking before about the cloud. Certainly, the cloud is a new paradigm, growing exponentially, and how is that unfolding in your eyes? How are we going to balance the convenience and the security issues?
Sure. Well, cloud computing is here to stay. There are some believe that every application will eventually be cloud-based because there's just too much there's too much value in trying to get applications live quicker, to not force corporations to kind of maintain their own infrastructure and the rest. But with that move towards cloud computing comes complexity. Now instead of everybody having, their forecast data or the intellectual property of products they're creating or, human resources data or whatever they deem to be confidential on their own servers, now those things are on one big shared server, and that there's a level of, attraction for the bad guys now to come break into those. So I just think it puts more pressure on those cloud providers to be able to keep that information secure.
And you think they're doing a good job?
I think that there's a lot of examples that are on the front page of papers that show that there's a long way to go in this battle. But I think as a consumer or a corporation, there's a very delicate balance between trying to get things live quickly and for the lowest cost possible with what the privacy concerns are of that data. And I can tell you as a security company there is a lot of emphasis into trying to help those cloud providers keep that information secure in a very manageable way.
Okay. And with that, we're going to have to wrap it up. My thanks to Mike DeCesare. Thanks for coming in, Mike.
Nice to meet you.